Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the show. You're listening to Open Mic here on WJR Radio. I'm your host, Johnny Kane, and we have been talking a lot about college football because it is on the horizon. It is, about a month away now. So we're looking forward to what's coming up, and obviously there's a lot of projections, and if you're into like preseason rankings and all that stuff, it gives us something to look forward to before we actually get to it. And that's the interesting part of it. How it's all going to play out, we just don't know. Cooper Schoenberg, Indiana University, Carter Lutz, University of Miami. These guys are plugged in the know on the college football landscape. Boys, good to have you back on the show.
Johnny, thanks for having us. It's a pleasure as always.
All right, I believe you. I believe you on that. So let's talk rankings here, in specific quarterback rankings, because as we know, obviously in the new landscape of college football, we don't see starters from year to year to year. A lot of times with the transfer portal and everything else, we see different faces, different names, different numbers. And so there's not a lot of familiarity, I think, for some of these big name programs. Say, well, who is it that's going to be under center this year? So give me a sense of what your commentary is all about as you guys rank college football quarterbacks heading into 2025.
Well, I think obviously with the quarterback being one of the most polarizing positions in all of sports, it's changed a lot through college football, specifically due to NIL and the fact that we pretty much have free agency going on right now. So there's a lot of hype for these guys coming into new programs, learning new systems. And I think it's a really interesting spot to kind of take a step back and analyze where these guys are at. And Cooper and I, besides just going at each other's throats regarding the Indiana and Miami quarterbacks, we looked at some of the top tier guys going on right now, poked all around, obviously a lot of SEC guys and whatnot, but it's going to be fun to see because a college football quarterback is like the position in sports, but there's so much uncertainty, as I said, and you really don't know what you're going to get. Some guys are going to be climbing the ranks. Some dudes who are hyped up aren't going to deliver under pressure. So it's a really fun spot to look at it from. And I know me and Cooper had a good time doing it before we get into the college football season.
Coop, your thoughts?
I really enjoyed the talk. And I think, all we can do commenting on these quarterbacks is give kind of our best educated guesses, our best predictions, because obviously we don't know. But like Carter talked about, with everything happening within the transfer portal and NIL, guys are placed on different teams, in different systems, in different conferences. So you really don't know how these quarterbacks are going to play out in their new teams. It's kind of a make or break, all or nothing type of thing. I mean, we're both guys, Indiana, Miami, Carson Beck transfer, Mendoza transfer, and it's really exciting and fun to talk about. It's that unpredictableness.
Yeah, like we can say all we want about our own guys even, but the fact of the matter is we haven't even seen them in a Miami or Indiana uniform. So how much can we really say? But at the same time, we can give predictions on people coming from other programs and rising to the top of those kinds of rankings because no one knows what it's going to be like. It's different systems and whatnot, as I mentioned. So it's a fun spot to predict from.
No, it's a great point, and I think, look, in all sports and at all levels, obviously the quarterback is of paramount importance, but especially in college football. And we've seen that with NIL and with the transfer portal, just what the going rate is to get a viable starting quarterback and then to get an elite level starting quarterback. If you want to be a national championship contender, that position has to be solidified. And really across football, I mean, that is, I think in college athletics, you would say, the most well-known name in any household of a favorite team or a favorite university. Everybody knows who the quarterback is, and we're going to do our best to explain who those quarterbacks to look for here as we head into the 2025 season. Boys, appreciate it. Looking forward to the commentary. Cooper Schoenberg, Carter Lutz, ranking the 2025 quarterbacks in college football.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Cooper and Carter's segment for this week's edition of SportsCaster Open Mic. And we're talking about the most important position in sports. We're talking about the quarterback position, particularly in college football. Now, Cooper is on the screen with me right now. He's going to give some of his thoughts. I'm going to give some of mine. Tensions are already flaring with their own personal schools, but The Athletic dropped a list ranking quarterbacks. They came out with 7 tiers, a couple guys per tier, and a lot of fun action, a lot of fun names in this year's college football quarterback pool. Cooper, let's start with tier 1. What are your initial thoughts? What are some of maybe your hot takes that you have going into the year?
In middle school, I used to watch Friday Night Lights where they would follow 3 quarterbacks every year. And a guy that they didn't even follow but took the starting position away from his quarterback was a guy by the name of DJ Uiagalelei. Now, when this guy was coming out as a highly touted recruit into Clemson as a 5-star, just a 6'5" moose, everybody thought he was going to be the shit. And he ended up being shit. Okay. He was not a good quarterback, but I see 2 guys that pique my interest in tier 1, both SEC quarterbacks, 6'3" to 6'4" range, 240 to 250 pounds. I mean, these guys are built ready for the pros already. Obviously, had to work out some freshman kinks in their first year, but I'm looking at Lenore Sellers and I'm looking at DJ Lagway, guys with phenomenal arms heading into their sophomore years. And I really want to see them make that jump. Lagway didn't start to begin, threw 456 yards in his first start, and then went the rest of the second half. Obviously had a couple of costly turnovers, freshman errors, and mental mistakes. But I want to see them, cool, calm, collected, keep their composure, and enter in with a big second sophomore year. What do you got to say?
Let's talk about Lagway because I went to the Miami-Florida game last year. He was able to come in the second half, and the game was out of reach.
Yeah.
Lagway ended up playing throughout the year, as you highlighted, but this guy just has that it factor.
Yeah.
I kind of feel it, and I kind of see it.
Yeah.
Obviously, a clear, perfect build for a college quarterback. Almost looks like Cam Newton out there, the way he throws the ball and runs. But he's terrific. I like what he's doing. I like him against that SEC talent. And then a guy that maybe hasn't been talked about a lot, but got a bag in the transfer portal, John Mater. And he's going to be at Oklahoma. He's going to be at an offense that's a lot of fun, another SEC team. There's all these SEC quarterbacks that could either go so well or fall so hard. Another guy, Nussmeier, I think he's going to end up being the number 1 pick in the draft. Lots of fun names in tier 1. A guy that is in tier 1 right now that I don't think will be there by the end of it. I'm a Drew Aller hater. I'm going to put my hand up and just admit to it.
Wow.
I'm not into the guy.
I don't think firing.
No, I just don't think he's that good. We saw him in that Notre Dame game and made key mistakes, and he's coming out as a projected top 5 pick. Can you explain it to me? Because I just don't get it.
I could not back it up, argue it, whatever. We like to go back and forth on this show, but I wholeheartedly agree with you. I don't really see anything special. Of course, I'm a little biased because I am a James Franklin hater. I don't think that he's going to coach him well enough. I don't think he's a good enough player to compete in the Big Ten. And I completely agree. Tier 1, look down to tier 3.
I mean, Penn State's going to compete in the Big Ten because they have a terrific roster. But as you said, James Franklin, what quarterbacks has he developed? None.
Nothing.
So I'm not buying the Drew Aller hype. They still might go undefeated in the regular season. They're loaded, but we'll see. Let's go to tier 2 because, before we came on here, you're throwing shade at my guy Carson Beck, who's ranked 12th, which I think is just a perfect spot for him. Going into last year, he's probably top 5 on this list. Now he's at 12. He's at Miami. I'm as a University of Miami student. At the time, I was shaking my head a little bit. I'm officially a Carson Beck believer, Cooper. Sign me up. Let's get on this horse and let's ride.
You're a Carson Beck believer because you have to. You got no choice.
No, because I've changed my ways. I didn't have to do anything.
But look, you were a Van Dyke believer. We saw how that turned out. And now Carson.
Accountability on that one. That's my
obviously
bad.
Cam Ward, a different type of dog. He was a beast. Look, it's tough to root for your friends' teams, but I loved Miami last year. I love the U. I love the history, but he is not going to go down in history as one of those great Miami quarterbacks. I'm going to abbreviate. I'm going to call it TUDE. That's short for attitude. Obviously, everybody talks about it, and I'm just going to be one of the naysayers that's going to hop on that bandwagon. When he's joking while his team's down, you're trying to compete for an SEC title or a spot in the college football playoffs, and he's just not making the right plays. He's completely mentally checked out.
When?
What's going to happen if the Miami defense stays the same as they did last year and they're letting up 40 points a game and he's trying to do all that he can, but it's not good enough, and come 5 minutes left, make or break time, and he's already mentally checked out because that's the type of player he is. And I believe he broke up with the Cavender twin, or maybe she broke up with him.
Dumped her.
That's a broken heart.
As soon as he saw those girls on Coral Gables, he dumped her.
Oh, that's a broken heart. That's a long neck, and it's going to be a long season for the big fella. I don't love it, and I'm sure you do. So to each his own, but I'm excited to see how it plays out.
What we have in this article is if he's healthy, and that's a big if, he's the second best quarterback in the ACC, which I think is fair. Another guy I want to throw attention to. Okay, we'll talk about Carson Beck throughout the college football season. Sure. Tons of question marks there. Really hard to say right now what it's going to be because I think he's going to take on a different role with Miami than he did with Georgia. But another guy in tier 2, before we get into your guy Mendoza quickly, Haynes King at Georgia Tech, love him. He plays hard-nosed football. He'll run through a man if he needs to in the middle of the open field. I love it. I think he's great. I think Georgia Tech's going to be fun in the ACC. Haynes King starting his 3rd season. I like him at rank 16. He's going to make his way up towards that tier 1. But let's talk about Fernando Mendoza. Give me the preview because I don't know much.
I mean, you see him at Cal, and he's competing last year with great teams like Miami, when obviously they had game day, Marshawn Lynch. It was an electric game, back and forth. Mendoza really made a name for himself, but this guy has it all. He's a 6'5", 225 quarterback at around 70% completion rate. He had a calm little 16 touchdown to 6 interception ratio. Very accurate passer. And the thing that I love most about him coming to Indiana, I think what he loved most about coming to Indiana, is we have Elijah Surratt, a top first-round projected wide receiver. We have Omar Cooper coming back, and we have Donovan McCulley, who's another senior wide receiver. We have juniors to seniors in the wide receiver positions. These guys at any given time can be the wide receiver 1 on any given day. And they are paired up with an absolute stud, an accurate passer who I think is going to be coached beautifully by Cignetti and is going to take over this Big Ten. Obviously, I'm biased. I'm calling it right here. Floor is around 8-4, 9-3, ceiling 11-1. Oregon is going to be tough to beat on the road. We can get into that later in the September months. But Carlos Mendoza is the guy for me. He's the guy for the.
Carlos Mendoza isn't even his name. His name isn't even Carlos Mendoza.
Okay, so I'm in New York, right? I'm thinking about the Mets because you just went to the game. We're going to get back on track. Fernando is a dirty dog. You love it. I love it. It's putting a smile on our face. Carlos also a beast. Maybe, I don't know, there's some correlation there because they're just a couple of dogs. But Fernando Mendoza taking over the Big Ten.
Yeah, we'll have to have SportsCaster research look into that. But one thing I'll say before we wrap it up, it's interesting to see all these moves with the transfers, with younger guys starting, and how it's going to shape up because Mendoza was going up against Pac-12 and ACC defenses. Now he's going up against Big Ten defenses. Yeah. It's a tall task, but the boys in Bloomington, they're holding on to some faith. That's going to do it for our segment for Open Mic. Thank you all for joining. Cooper, it's been a pleasure. Football's back. Football's back.
It's so back, and I'm so excited.
All right, you were listening to Carter Lutz and Cooper Schoenberg. They have a podcast as well called Live and Uncut. Very informative, very insightful. The boys like to go back and forth with one another. But good stuff, and obviously a lot to look forward to as we do look at college football as a whole. And again, the quarterbacks to look for as we head into the 2025 season. Again, coming up here at the end of August. So exciting times, all looking forward to college football being here before we know it. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the NBA and a local tie to Dakota High School. That's coming up next here on Open Mic.